Hi, everybody. Welcome to Someone Gets Me. I have Dr. Khanita with us today, and we are going to talk about how to sleep better and get rid of all that inner stress. Sleeping better goes with pain management of all kinds. And when we free ourselves of inner distress, we can sleep better, function better, and we're happier. So from Maryland today, Dr. Khanita is here with us so that we can have this great conversation. She's multifaceted and has an extensive experience, even though she looks like she's still a teenager. Okay? She's married, has a cute little dog, and a big life. So don't let that young face fool you. There's a lot of wisdom behind her. So you might want to grab a pen or a paper, get your favorite beverage, and sit back with me and relax and enjoy this interview with Dr. Khanita. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Diane. This is fun. I'm so excited.
Oh, this is going to be great. For everybody who may want to understand a little bit more about how to relieve inner distress, we know there's lots of different ways to do it. And you teach some unique skills that really help people, particularly your videos that you've been doing on Qigong exercises and things like that. Can you share just a little bit about what your belief is and mindset is around inner distress and how it affects our sleep so that we have a foundation of how you see things?
Yeah, so just to let everyone know, my background is in chiropractic, traditional Chinese medicine that includes acupuncture, the Chinese herbs. And I have also done martial arts since I was almost 12 years old. I love, like, I couldn't really sit still as a child, so I definitely had all these activities I needed to do. Starting actually with Thai boxing, and it wasn't until when I went to grad school where I did all the chiropractic acupuncture school that I found my Sifu, or my teacher, in Kung Fu, and the style I do is called Hanga. So it's like a Southern martial arts. And so what actually got me to that is, like, it's really cool in acupuncture. So we had a great teacher who he taught Tai Chi. And after that, I was like, man, I really miss this. And it's just so relaxing to do as a whole class. So that's really what kind of propelled me into exploring more of, like, the martial arts and also the health aspects of martial arts. Because we kind of see, like, oh, it's like, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, all this fighting. But a lot of really good, like, true martial arts have, like, a health component to it, right? And, I was lucky enough to be exposed to it in school. So the Qigong is super important to me in terms of kind of like a grounding practice to kind of help, other than meditation, like, calm the inner critic, I guess we can call it, in our heads, or like all the self-doubt that comes in, or even the stresses of life. Because I was doing so many programs at once, like, I was crazy. I would wake up at 5 a.m. to study for 3 hours, go to class at 8, and then end at 5, right? It's like, but what really helped me was I woke up every morning, and you kind of talked about it this morning too. Like, every morning, started my cup of coffee, and then I would do my Qigong exercises, and that really kind of started the day on a good note for me. It was just like everything, is calmed down, it's quiet, and I can tackle the day with, like, a very light mind, if that makes sense.
Oh, that makes total sense. So if we have a light mind, if I get it right, then if there's not that much heaviness, then we, by definition, have less distress. So part of other things that you do, I know you really specialize in pain management and really help people release pain. And I know that I've suffered with pain, and you've helped me with sending me videos. Here, do this, do that. And now I watch your video, and I copy the best I can. It probably doesn't look so good, but it's as good as it, like, I'm like, okay, I think this is what she's doing. But the neat thing about it is I already feel a lot better. Like, I can feel the move. And I'm a very sensitive person. And so I notice things very easily. And so how does doing some of the martial arts and maybe even the Qigong
Mm,
specifically, how does it help with
mm,
like that fast thinking, that overthinking, that inner critic? How does it help us not be controlled by those kinds of, I
mm.
call them kind of gooky stucky,
Yeah, cookie stuff.
of, how does it work?
That's a great question. So what I found is, especially with Qigong and the martial arts, whether you kind of believe it or not, like, things are changing your body when you're a certain posture, or like if I hold a certain way, right? You feel the energy kind of
Mhm.
go to certain places, and wherever you're stuck, you'll feel it because you're like, oh, I'm noticing that. But that also makes your mind kind of not think of all like the gooky stuff, and it's just more of observing of what's going on in your body. And with the Qigong, you'll also I try my best to talk about alignment, because the alignment is what helps with the free flow of energy throughout the body. Because if we're like slumped together, right, we have kind of like kinks. Like if you think of a hose, um, we have kinks in certain areas of the body that can't relax unless we try to go into a good alignment
Mhm.
with the Qigong. So that also helps us focus. The Qigong kind of quiets the all the heaviness and makes us focus and observe what's going on with the rest of the body. And that kind of, it's very freeing too, to kind of just think about that.
Oh, that's really cool. So it's like it's distracting, but it's distracting because you're being the witness to your own process,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
very healing in a lot of neat ways.
Mhm.
That's how that works. I can
Mhm.
feel that though sometimes, like now it's all about me, right? I could feel when I did the first one I ever saw that I didn't even know who you
Mm.
were yet, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I want to try that. I'm like
Yeah.
little Miss Curious. I'll try anything once, and the way you were teaching, I could get it.
Mm.
I understood and I could follow you. At least I think I was following you, and
Yeah, I'm sure you
and
did great.
and now that I've had more interaction with you, I see more about why I was drawn to your particular way of teaching it, because you have a really deep understanding that comes out in a very easy way for the audience or the listener or the patient to
Mhm.
understand.
Mhm.
And I think that's really cool. So tell
Yeah.
us. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say it, other than kind of not being like observing or being a witness, it also allows you to, like, when certain things do open up, you're like, oh, I didn't think about that, or like I didn't know about that myself. At least that's what I found
Yes.
too. And you start, like, then it kind of goes into or bleeds into other parts of your life. I'm like, oh, I can improve this of myself. So it's also a way to
Oh.
open the mind as we're like unblocking the kinks or the gunk. That's whatever you
Right.
want to call it.
I have lots of different analogies and metaphors. It kind of depends on my
Yeah.
mood, which what I
Yes.
use. So I saw recently a post that you put on Instagram about your mom,
Hmm. Hmm.
and the name of your clinic and all of that. And would you share with all of us a little bit about like where you come from, your
Mm.
family,
Hmm.
and then also, of course, share the story about how you named your clinic and what it means. But
Yeah.
when I saw the picture,
Mm.
I could connect with some real family beauty and power and grace coming through
Hmm.
to you, through you, and out into the world. And if
Yeah.
you could share about your heritage and your history and just
Oh my God.
how this is all unfolded, whatever you want to say, I think it would just be really magical to hear.
Yeah. I was thinking about this yesterday, so this is like perfect to talk about. So, my last name's super long. That's why you're calling me Dr. Khanita. So my last name's Suvarnasuddhi. It's very Thai. So my family is from Thailand. My parents were both born there. However, my mom is actually full Chinese. Like, so my grandpa, on my mom's side, moved to Thailand, lost his whole family, actually, sadly, and started his life. And he had 8 kids. So my mom was one of 8 kids.
Wow.
And but even though culturally and language wise, I understand Thai, she actually grew up very Chinese, and there is like a slight difference in Chinese culture, and even Asian culture is very similar, but Chinese versus Thai is still very different. And part of me thinks that's why no one in my family is actually like a Chinese medicine doctor except for me, who grew up in the States, which is kind of funny, right? I just feel like there
Wow.
was definitely an ancestral calling, whatever you
Mhm.
want to call it, for me to pursue this medicine. Um, so that's a little bit of my background and kind of why I got into all the martial arts too. That's like in the Chinese realm.
Right. Yeah.
even though I, yeah, even though I started with Thai boxing, like Muay Thai is very kind of like intense, but the martial arts has been, and Qigong has been kinder to my body. So that's why I'm like, I think this is better for me right now. So in terms of my practice name, it's called Araya Holistic Pain Management. So Araya comes from my mom's maiden name. So they actually changed their name when they moved to Thailand. So the last name is Arya Vilaipong. It's really long too. But I took just the first half of the name, so Arya, which in Sanskrit, means the noble one. It also means in Thai, it kind of means like kindness, I believe. And it also represents like a heroic spirit, noble warrior. And I really love that meaning. And I named after my mom because in 2016 she passed away from cancer about actually like 1 month before I was supposed to graduate. So it was very, it was very hard for me, but it throughout the whole process, and something I thought about yesterday is when I got into all the medicine, it's like really when she was diagnosed with cancer in 2013, um, it really catapulted me to like help her in any way possible. And because of her diagnosis, I didn't think about it until yesterday for real. Like, it's just so funny that it really did push me because I wasn't gonna do like the Chinese herbs, but when I talked to my teachers, like, hey, I actually want to learn more about how Chinese medicine can help with cancer treatment, help with the side effects. She's like, you have to do herbs, and I'm like, because it's really hard to do. It's like basically two masters and a doctorate at once, and no one has done it at my school. And but because of like my mom's diagnosis, it really kind of pushed me, and it pushed me to something I never knew I could do. And I did really well doing all three programs, and I loved the whole process of it. So thinking about that is like really when, yesterday I didn't want to admit it, but I was like, yeah, she actually was like that catalyst that
Mhm.
propelled me into the medicine, and how fitting it would be to name it after her. And I hope to kind of like I cared for her during the whole process. My teachers helped me, when with all the side effects, and I hope for all my patients that I give that same care to them too as it did to my mother.
That must be really special to be one of your patients, because if you're bringing that same care and noble
Mhm.
kindness to your patients that you did for helping your own mother,
Mhm.
that's a big statement, and that you could, that's like a view into your heart and your soul
Mhm.
of who
Mhm.
you are to do that. It's just so beautiful, so beautiful.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
you did all three programs at the same time.
Yeah. It was something else. That's why I woke up at 5 a.m. It's just like that's what you have to do. But I knew I loved it because it was just like it wasn't something like, oh, I have to do it. I was like, oh, like this is awesome. I'm gonna get really good at this.
So you were raised in the States, and so have you been over to Thailand and China a lot in different times, or mostly here? Tell us a little bit how the travel goes. And what I'm really curious about is when you go to Thailand or you go to China,
Yeah.
do you feel like that spiritual ancestral
Mm.
connection, or is it, oh, that's cool, I'm from there? I would love to know
No,
that.
yeah. That's a great question because so when I still go to Thailand. So I went a lot when I was a kid, when my whole family, so there's my parents, and then I have a older brother and older sister and a younger brother. So we all went in a family almost every other summer. So because we used to have family there. And I like absolutely loved it. It was so much fun hanging out with my family. And like I said, my mom was one of eight, so there was like tons of things to do there. And I definitely felt like I love like there's definitely a cultural difference between me and my cousins, like how they do things versus like growing up in the States. My mom used to ask me too, like, are you glad that you were born in America? And I was like, yes, because I don't think I could have done all the schooling that I did if I was overseas, or have the drive to do so. So it's very interesting. My mom was very like different. You know, she wasn't a very typical Chinese woman. If I had to say, she's very like direct, honest, didn't care about anyone's opinion, and wanted us to be happy here, like doing whatever we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know, like, I'm going to talk about like Asian culture, right? It's like you either like a doctor, lawyer, right? Or what's the other one? Doctor, lawyer, either one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my parents allowed us to express ourselves in whatever way we wanted. So my sister's a tattoo artist. It's pretty cool.
Your sister's a tattoo artist and you're an acupuncturist. There's
Yeah.
a needles going on in this
Yeah, yeah.
family.
That's what we joke about. We should have a shop called like Needle Sisters, and I do acupuncture and she does all the artwork, but it's pretty interesting. So in that way, like, I love Thailand. I love what it like represents. And the last time I was there was with my mom in 2011. And that was actually the first time I got acupuncture, was in Thailand, not here, funny enough, from a Chinese doctor. And that's kind of part of like what sparked my interest in it as well. So that was really cool. And I have gone to China. We went as a school. So my acupuncture school went in 2016, and we did an internship in Hangzhou, China. Um, Even though it's a small city, it's like 2 million people.
Yeah, that's small,
Yeah,
right?
that's small. But we did a trip, like more touristy stuff, in Beijing for the first week. And then 2 weeks after that, we were in Hangzhou, um, shadowing the doctors in the hospital. So I got to see like, and it's really cool how they do stuff, because they don't really see the Eastern and Western as separate. They combine the two, which like I wish we could do here. I think that's amazing. Um, so seeing like they had like a oncology ward, and they had like just a respiratory. They had one clinic of just fertility, and there'd be like lines of people, you know, coming to see this doctor, and doing all the herbs. So definitely that connection I felt. And also every morning, which is awesome, I got to do Tai Chi with this like little awesome lady who was like smaller than me. But I wake up to go do Tai Chi with a master, and it was so great. So I definitely want to go back to China just to experience that again. You know, I definitely feel that connection of like, oh, I love waking up early to do, you know, to train, and then to work with them too.
Yes, I love getting up early. I used to be a night out, and then I started getting up early because I got at a job that started at 5:30 and all these other
Yeah.
things. And then now I'm like, I love getting up and working out or doing whatever neat thing I'm going to do, meditate, journal, everything.
Hmm.
And then everyone else is starting to wake up. And
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm good. Thank you very much. You know, I love it now. I wouldn't trade it for anything, you know, that
Yeah.
getting up. So let's talk about how the work you do, you know, with acupuncture and all of it, because you have like this
Mhm.
big array of things. And I want to bring it down to some ways, tips, understandings, whatever you want to share about how to help people actually sleep better or rest or get the stress out of their body.
Mm.
We're living in a time right now where there's all these changes going on and it's kind of goofy and crazy.
Mhm.
And I think we're being called on as wellness people to really
Mhm.
elevate knowledge for people that there are other answers other than just pills and drugs and
Yeah.
staying
Absolutely.
drunk or whatever. So, and I believe that because you have such a great array of skill set and talent, and your understanding and your belief is so deep. If somebody's listening to us, and I'm sure there is somebody who's like, man, I just need to sleep through the night. I need to not have
Mhm.
insomnia. And I want to start
Mm.
waking up in the morning with some energy instead of like throwing myself out of bed and dragging until noon. What
Yeah.
are, what are some understandings you have about what causes, you know, sleep problems? And what are a couple things that maybe we could teach some people how to do?
Mm. Ooh, that's a loaded question. There's a lot that goes into that. But like, yeah, sleep is something, fortunately I haven't had extreme issues with. I mean, there's some issues there, but I've kind of worked on what I call like sleep hygiene tips.
Mm-hmm.
Um, little bit mix of Western and Eastern side of how I think about things. But yeah, sleep, your body needs to sleep. It's the time that it recovers, where I call like, it's like it gets rid of the garbage in your brain. Right? It's like the cleanup crew works in that time to kind of like help with recovery, help with like cognition, memory, all that stuff. So anyone that says like, oh, I don't need sleep, or like sleep is for when you're dead, I'm like, I wholeheartedly disagree with you.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And so I'll give you kind of like both sides to it. There's one I really like with Chinese medicine. So interestingly, like our organs actually have a circadian rhythm, right? And what I see a lot, which is super interesting, is some people that deal with grief or they lost someone, they'll wake up at a certain time. So the lung organ is associated with grief. And I see this a lot with people dealing with loss, is they wake up between 3 and 5 a.m. And also like before that, the liver has a time too. So the liver is 1 to 3 a.m. And liver also deals with stress and anger and all that stuff. So I always like, you definitely want to try to put your liver to sleep before then. So you actually don't get the same quality of sleep after 11 p.m. really. Like people are like, oh, but I still get 8 hours because I wake up at like 8 or 9 a.m. But the quality actually is not the same. So you want to, I say, put your liver to sleep beforehand. You want to sleep before 11 p.m. because to me, I don't have, super backup research on that. But like, I noticed the quality is different when I sleep before that time versus sleeping after 11 or midnight, right? Even if you wake up 8 or 9 hours later, the quality is not the same. So one of the tips I would give is kind of try to shift your circadian rhythm where you're sleeping before 11 p.m. and that does improve the quality of your sleep. And I have like I like to always like collect data on myself because I'm kind of like a mad scientist with stuff. So I do have stuff like I use like a ring to track how well I sleep throughout the night. So that also gives me an indicator. Another really good tip is we like to snack a lot, right? So I tell people not to eat after 8 p.m. because what happens is biochemically when we eat food after at night, it like triggers all the response, like the sugar level goes up and that keeps us awake too. So even though you get the munchies at night, you really don't want to eat past 8 p.m. And what actually works really well too is doing kind of like a intermittent fasting, I guess you could call it, or like a window that you're eating at. And because when you allow yourself to not eat for like 11 hours, it gives the body enough time to clean up everything, because we like don't realize how much we're eating throughout the day because we always like to snack on little things, but that doesn't give our digestive system enough time to digest stuff or clean up stuff, or gives the spleen enough time to kind of like clean out the blood and stuff like that. So that's something that I try to keep in mind too, is when I'm eating at night, and not to eat too late, and not to sleep too late too.
So I'm going to interrupt you for a second because I have so many people who say, yeah, I eat whatever, ice cream or have something, to eat. And then they go to bed and then they say that they don't sleep very well. And it's, well, let me help. I have always said, well, there's a lot of vitamin B in the milk and ice cream, and that can give you weird dreams. But what you're saying is, even in addition to that, eating that close to going to bed doesn't give your body a chance to assimilate what's going on. It messes up your blood sugar, and therefore it really impairs things. So if you're going to have ice cream before you go to bed and you're going to go to bed at 11, you can't have your ice cream after 8.
Yeah.
So what if somebody gets the munchies, like they want to crunch on something and they're going to not have popcorn or chips, and they choose to eat something like celery? Does that have the same negative effect? Like could they munch on just celery alone between 8 and 11 and still go to bed at 11? Or is it mostly the sugar, or is it anything? Or I don't know. It might be a weird question, but I'm just kind of thinking about the people who get the munchies, okay, we know not
Yeah.
to do things that have sugar or calories, but what if it's just like plain celery?
Yeah, that's a funny question. I never thought of it like that. I like your thought process, but it might still have an effect. If anything, you get the munchies, drink water or drink some like decaf tea without any, sugar or honey in it. Just to if because sometimes you just like want to eat something, right? So
Yep.
I just tell my people to just drink water or drink something that doesn't have like a lot of calories. Like tea is a perfect example too.
Yeah, I use organic herbal teas when I feel like having a treat at night. I
Yep.
just and I just they're all it's so good that
Yes.
it doesn't
Yes.
need a sweetener, it doesn't need anything, but the warmth of the cup and just
Yep.
having the tea takes care of that want for whatever it is, that could have been defaulted to something bad, but I love my herbal tea.
Yeah. What I used to do at school was if I was feeling like I want a little like snack, I would just warm up. I drink like oat milk now, but then you add a little like turmeric and cinnamon, and that actually helps with like relaxation too. And turmeric is great in general.
That sounds really, really good.
Yeah.
So
Tasty.
any other tips to help people sleep better? I know I interrupted you.
Oh no,
You were on a
I
roll, and I'm
know.
like, but wait a minute, I
Yeah.
want to ask about celery. No.
Yeah. I was asked if I eat celery. So yeah, so like not so we said like not sleeping or trying to go to bed before 11, not eating too late. Also kind of controlling when we eat a little bit. Doing some sort of like pre-bed routine, whether it be, my husband likes to play games with his friends, and that's how he relaxes. That's not how I relax, but that's how he relaxes. Everyone has their thing, so something that that you do. And he wears actually another thing I wanted to mention was like blue light blockers too, and he wears like these glasses that really block out the blue light because
Mhm.
that also, I'm sure you heard about that,
Oh yes.
kind of makes us stay up late, and that's the issue now because people are using the computer so much. So the blue light blocker glasses are really great for that. Um, if you're gonna look at your screen, but really try not to look at your screen before you go to bed. Um, so let me get back. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so have a pre-bed routine. Sometimes I do stretching and I do most reading at night, just to have something that's like it's prepping you for bed. And that can look different for everyone. Like maybe people like to stretch, or maybe you read a story to your kids, or maybe I don't know, you play something with your friends and something like that. It's going to be a little different for everybody, but I
Hmm.
feel that that also helps. Or journaling. Some people like to journal at night, or do a brain dump, writing it down. That sometimes helps people too. I've heard that's good. I personally don't do it. I tend to journal in the morning. But I know when you have so many thoughts in your mind, when you can get it out on paper or just write it before you go to bed, that also helps too.
Yes. Yes, it does. I do that a lot sometimes if there's a lot of things going on. If I write it all down and I take the hardcover book and I slam it shut, and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm done with you until the
You're
morning.
done.
And
Yes.
if I still feel like dealing with you tomorrow, I will. If not, see you later.
I love it. Yeah, it's like we're good. And another tip too, I would say keeping the temperature a little cooler at night too also induces sleep. Um, and there are some meditations that help with sleep as well, but you can't really, funny enough, you can't really do it like before bed. You actually have to do it more in the morning because it helps you throughout the day to go to sleep better. Um, so those are more like tips that people can do on their own, other than like I also treat people with sleep issues, and when I do acupuncture on them, almost all of them say they always sleep better that night because I'm also decreasing a lot of the stress hormones within the body. There are also Chinese herbs that help if you have a more serious sleep issue, that help with insomnia problems too. So like what I said before is something you can do at home, or go see someone, go see an acupuncturist to help with your sleep issues as well.
Right. I love how acupuncture works. And I when my acupuncturist could come back to work after all this stay at home thing. I think I was dancing in the streets.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh man. And I felt so much better. All the stuff that was blocking up in my system, energetically and otherwise. And I think I was about an hour gone. And I'm like, oh, and I had people go, I don't do acupuncture. Oh, the needles hurt. The needles. I said, you know what? First of all, I don't think they hurt. Second of all, I said, I don't think they hurt. So the other thing that I noticed, this is like a kind of personal question, but it's universal when it comes to acupuncture. I know that. And a couple of the points that she would put the needle in, I'm really sensitive. I can feel stuff most people don't really feel. A couple of them felt like they were almost hitting the jam up. Like I could feel them energetically. It didn't hurt me, but I could feel it. Yeah. And then about 10 minutes after she got them all in and she was gone, and I'm meditating, which is my favorite time ever, I felt it. That feeling was gone. So my assumption is she got the right meridian where whatever the jam up was, and the needles helped clear it. Is my assumption accurate?
Yeah, it is. There are like, just to give people understanding with acupuncture, you have like 12 main channels, or I call them channels, meridians, whatever you call them. They're kind of like rivers, right? And then we have all these points that we can physically access with an acupuncture needle that can get jammed up or blocked. It's kind of like, when there's a dam. So I'm thinking of the channels like rivers, right? And if there's gunk in there, right? The water turns all this murkiness, right? So it creates all this stagnation, this blockage, and you can't get the clear water to flow. Because every channel kind of has its own, again, circadian rhythm of flowing well. So then when a certain point is blocked, or maybe it doesn't have enough water, right? So it can go either way. With the acupuncture point, like any tender spot, usually I will palpate too on different channels to see like what's like, people are like, oh, that really hurts. It's like, okay, that area is blocked. So when you do the acupuncture needle, and if like some people have different techniques, some people just like kind of leave them in. I actually do a little bit manipulation to kind of get it to break up, and then people will feel they'll feel a sensation of it going down. Yeah. So that's opening up the channel. It's really cool. I love it. Obviously, I love it.
So my understanding is that when the channel's open, you go get your treatment and the channel that they work on, that you would work on with me is open, then that gives my body permission to do its natural healing ability, whatever that is. It sets the stage to let the body heal itself and work on that versus staying stagnant, which then leads to dis-ease and all other kinds of pain. Am I right?
Yes,
right,
perfectly. Yeah, right. Look at you. You can be acupuncture.
Man, I tell you, it's so funny because I first was exposed to acupuncture a long time ago from a chiropractor I went to, and he had an acupuncture in his office. He didn't do it. He had somebody in there. And I'm like, I'll try anything once, because I work only with gifted people, and I have a rule that I pretty much try anything and everything before I recommend it, both practitioner-wise, but also item-wise. Like I can speak to what acupuncture does pretty well, and different kinds of it even, because I go try it. And that way, then when I'm recommending it to a client, they understand that it's just not coming off the top of my head, that it might be an intuitive idea to help support what they're doing, but I also have experience, or at least some knowledge base, right? And so ever since then, the first time I'm like, wow, I feel like really good. And then they were saying all these other things in Chinese herbs, and that was way over my head. Now I understand it more, but back then I'm like, okay, well, I'll try them. And they gave me some herbs that look like little BB things. And so I'm like, and I felt better between the chiropractor and those two things. Then I've also had an acupuncture / chiropractor person who, it was quite the opposite. It was like in the interview, we got along really well, but then we just didn't vibe together, it didn't work. And so the message really is to everybody, that make sure that you are comfortable and happy and you feel safe with your practitioner. I mean,
Yes.
because Dr. Khanita is going to care for you like she did her mother. That's a different qualitative connection to your patients than somebody who said, oh, I think I can make a lot of money doing acupuncture. This is really kind of fun. And I'm just going to do this. And I'll just memorize the meridians and pop in the needles. And then that's the end of it. That's two different kinds of practitioner. And there's all the range in the middle. So if somebody was going, I want to try acupuncture, what are some things that the prospective patient might want to learn about their practitioner? Like if they were going to interview, or they were going to look up the person online, or they were going to do it. What's a good way to discern if, practitioner person A or B, who would be more in alignment? Because it seems to me that if you're really connected to your practitioner, the work they do also resonates with your body more, which then you get better long-term results because you're connected.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So, yes. That's a good question, Diane. Yeah. I mean, number one, I know some issues with I'm sure her dry needling, all that stuff. It's very different. I was saying off the bat, because the training that goes into acupuncture is immense, especially with the masters and people who do. I know chiropractors do dry needling, but they only do a weekend course. It's so different. So you just want to make sure of that too, that you're getting an acupuncturist and not just someone that's done, a weekend course on this. If you want to get a certain result, because man, when you first learn how to needle each other, man, it was rough for the first year. It took a while to get back, but that it takes a long time. It's not just a weekend, boom, boom, you're connected. It's the training that goes into the technique, but also, like you said, the intention too. And that's why I do the martial arts. For me, personally, okay, this is just for me. I like someone that has done a martial arts or done some sort of movement that understands their body alignment, because that plays a role in how they needle too. So that's just for me. I like someone that has that background. And because when I do even chiropractic, or when I do acupuncture, I'm doing a certain thing, or I'm needling from what I call my Ming Men, which is the life gate in my back. So that connection too. And then there's an intention that goes into it. And for me, it's when you ask that question, how do you find a practitioner? It's almost like you just have to ask and read into their background. I feel like you'll know when you're in person, to have that connection. And there's, some patients that I've had that I just didn't vibe with too. It just happens, or they maybe they don't want to accept it, or, whatever. Just depends. But it's a good question. I'm trying to think. I don't know if that kind of answered it, but it's just what I look for. It's that background of the intention, how they move too, how they do their body alignment. That's very important to me.
Well, that makes perfect sense to me. And you answered the question, because I think it does have to do with when you're in person with the person, you're there face to face, then you can, pay attention to how you feel, and do you trust them? And are the questions they ask you, or the dialogue that they have with you, safe and it feels good and you want to see them, and those things are all discerning things. And I really like that you brought up the point about, the way I translate it is being multifaceted. Okay, I just didn't go to acupuncture school. I actually practiced the other things that go along with that mentality, that intention, the mindset. It's not just I went to school and now I can do needles for you.
Yes, exactly.
It's all of the thousands of years of healing, culture, movement, alignment that you bring with you because you practice those things. And
yes, I try to live the medicine. That's what you want to look for. You want to look for someone that lives the medicine.
That's a perfect way to say it. That's a perfect way to say it. Find somebody who lives in the way that you want to get to. If they're living it, then they can show you how or teach you how or work with you to get there because they know what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, and to add to that what you said before of like the different aspects, I think people just see acupuncture, right? But like traditional Chinese medicine is multifaceted. It's actually like the not only the acupuncture, but the tuina, which is Chinese medical massage. And I was also fortunate to have a good teacher. The Chinese herbal medicine, the nutrition we eat too, and the Qigong, the movement. And I do cupping and gua sha, which is an additional to like more of the physical stuff. But like how you eat, how you move is also just as important. Because I was talking to my friend about it. Like for her, she's a dancer, and I can stick all the needles in her neck. Right, she has like really bad neck pain. But if I don't fix that alignment issue, like it's just gonna come back. So
Right.
I also have to teach her. I was like, I need to give you actually qigong exercise to realign your neck because there's something wacky too. Because even when I felt her neck or adjusted it, I was like, oh my god. It's like, but that doesn't come overnight. It's like it's the repetitive, the chronicity of it
Mm-hmm.
that makes it like this. Now I think people also I'm gonna go sorry totally tangent on this, but with pain, people want to get rid of it with a pill just like that, but that doesn't really fix the problem. I think people need to realize that you've been like that for years, so it's going to take time to unwind it too, which is what acupuncture and all that, the 29 everything is really good at. You just have to be patient with it because we're getting to the root cause, right? It's just,
Mm-hmm.
but we always want a quick fix and you're like, oh, I feel better, but you also need other things to kind of have longevity in your treatment too.
Yes, that I'm glad you went on that tangent because it's so very important. It's so very important, and and I tell people that all the time. We none of us got this way overnight with whatever our challenges are,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and if you just put a pill on most of it, it is like putting a band. I can say it's like putting a band-aid on a cyst. The
Yeah.
cyst keeps
Yeah.
growing. The problem's still there. You might feel better for a minute or two or 20 minutes
Mhm.
or an hour, but you didn't do anything with the cause. And one of the things I love about acupuncture is really helping with the cause. And I'm now a new qigong kind of fan because of your videos.
Mhm.
Um, for whatever reason, I've always been curious about it, but never really
Mm.
got I never really could seek a place or find a teacher or watch a video. It just never really, the right person never showed up. When they say the student's ready, the teacher appears. Well, that's probably what happened because I saw your
Yeah.
video. I'm like, I can do that. I can follow
Mhm.
her. And, I have been, to the best of my ability, doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to do a Zoom call and and we
I
can
know. Yeah.
see if
Yeah.
I do it
I'll
right.
do some alignment. I have to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, it's very, very exciting to get to have you on the show and talk to you because you're somebody who's really freely giving and freely caring about people
Mhm.
and running a successful business, and you have a great husband and you have great animals like Teddy's so
Yes.
cute, and and you have this wonderful well-balanced life, or so what are some things that Dr. Khanita does for
Oh,
your own stress management and your own staying vital and alive and focused, and because you've got lots of things going on and they're all really
I
cool.
know.
what do you
Yeah.
what do you do for you?
I do so. Sometimes my brain does a million things, but it's the curiosity of life, right? That keeps you
Mhm.
vibrant. I think that's the main thing for me. What I try to tell my community is like, especially feeling the social isolation of everything,
Mhm.
having projects, having something you always wanted to learn, start that. Like, why not? We have so many tools at our disposal. Like when I was supposed to go to Thailand in 2 weeks for my
Yes.
honeymoon, sadly. So what I was doing was doing italki or practicing my Thai because I'm like, okay, but I was trying to be more fluent so I could talk to my family there more. And that doesn't take like the main thing of people is like, oh, I don't have time. I don't have time. Like you have what I call like the edges of time. Like if you go on a walk, we can listen to a podcast in the language or something like that. You know, um, I think people just have this mindset of like not having enough time to do
Mm.
stuff. but there's so many things in the edges of our schedule that we can fit in. We just don't realize it. Another thing for like stress management, I'm sure this comes to no surprise, but I love my kung fu. So I've been doing a lot more of that. And because I have really fun weapons, I get to go outside in the sun and like flare them around right now. So that's also like, that's movement therapy for me too. Any kind of movement, whether you're like a dancer or like you're a boxer or yogi, you know, having some sort of movement every day is extremely vital for your own health, right? Because we only have one body. We have to, to keep it moving. And my goal is when I'm 80 or 90, I'm still gonna like do stuff. I'm still gonna like do all sorts of things or box until I can't.
I believe you.
Yeah.
I think that's how that's going to be.
Yeah, that'll just stay vibrant. But the curiosity and trying new things is what really helps kind of dig you out of like that depression or the inner stress with everything, or inner distress. I'm sorry. So other than that, the movement therapy, some sort of grounding practice. For me, that's partially the Qigong, but then I also added meditation to it. And if you have kids or anything, pick a time where like they, you know, this is why waking up earlier is always good. So you just like quiet time, just sit, start the day like that. And I also I do a lot of stuff right now. So this, you don't have to do everything. So don't do everything I do, but just pick one thing and try to incorporate more into your life. I think keeping it simple is the best. Journaling is also something I do. So I do this thing called the morning pages that I got from a book. So you, in the morning, you just write 3 things you're grateful for. It can be like something like a friendship that you appreciate, or the weather, or something you witnessed, something, you know, it can be anything. Then 3 things that will make today great, make that day great, and then daily affirmations. So that's something really simple. If you want to follow a prompt to do every morning, that's super helpful. And I've been doing it for the past month.
No, that's really great. I've written a couple books. One is a meditation book for visionary leaders.
Oh.
And another one is called Hope Realized, for people who want to feel more hope. And it's got a word of the day, a quote. And then I unpack the quote in about 120 words. And then it has a daily application. Do this. And then a place to journal at the bottom. So at the end of the day,
like that.
You come back and journal your experience. And then every 90 days throughout the book, there's blank pages to write, how are you now? Like, how does this 90 days been? And it starts with day 1. So it's not based on calendar. It's based on when we start. And I find that having that kind of grounding focus of something to look at in the morning, a word of the day, something that it reminds us what we're grateful for, whatever that would be, is so important for like long-term stress reduction, and not getting to that point where you're in such distress you don't know what to do next, you know.
Absolutely. Super important. I love that. I need to go get that book from you.
I will send you one when we're done with this interview. You let me know, and I will send you one as a thank you for being on my show. Now, I want to also talk, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. It's kind of the same but different, but a lot of people have a lot of physical pain. And I believe that physical pain impacts our sleep, and it increases our distress level. And so I know you're an expert in helping people relieve pain. So of course, acupuncture and chiropractic and the things we've been talking about and keeping your stress level down are required. And what you keep talking about, which I have not had anybody mention yet, is about the whole alignment thing. Like if you're not aligned properly, then it doesn't necessarily, everything works, but not quite as well, obviously. So that makes sense to me completely. It's just I've never had anybody say it that way. You know, I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of right. So if somebody's listening to us and they've got pain going on, and maybe they can't get to the acupuncturist right now, or maybe because I don't know where they would be, and most places are shut down. We're starting to open Florida again, but that doesn't, we don't know. Is there something someone can do? My thing would be find you on YouTube and Instagram, or wherever you are, YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, and go watch your videos because you say what they're for in the beginning, the
Yes.
exercises, and you just find the ones that match with what's going on, and
Yes.
then do that every day. That would be what I would tell them to do.
Yes.
In addition to that, is there something else you would tell someone to do to help them with their physical pain?
Yes. It came in my head when you asked me this. It all comes down to breathing, is what I find. So we don't breathe. I find out we don't breathe very well because we think like we're supposed to breathe like our lungs up here, so chest breather, but we're actually supposed to breathe lower down into our abdomen. I call it kidney breathing in one of my videos.
Mm-hmm.
So for people that are in pain, if you just start with bringing your breath down into your abdomen and breathing correctly, it's like amazing how much of your muscles will relax. And I sometimes do this with my patient who I can see that they don't breathe correctly, or they have a lot of it sometimes connected to low back pain. I'm going to go a little technical here, but you have like the diaphragm is like this dome. So it actually helps with breathing. It like pulls the lungs down and then back up. But the diaphragm, the muscles are actually connected to the lumbar spine. So when that gets wonky or you're not breathing correctly, you can actually get low back pain, or some people actually get because our esophagus also comes out of the diaphragm, you can get reflux too if you don't know how to breathe correctly. So a lot of times I tell people to like put their hands on their stomach, and I show this in the video. So you lay down on your back, you try to flatten your back against the floor or the table, whatever, and you focus on bringing your breath down into your belly and expanding in 360 direction. A lot of people like think of breathing as just up and down, but it's actually this whole like cylindrical force, right? And when we breathe correctly, we're not only bringing oxygen, which is what we want to our body, it brings nutrients, but you're also you're also relaxing the muscles and using the correct muscles to hold your body up and not compensating. That makes sense.
Wow, that made perfect sense. I'm listening to you and I'm like, see, this is why I knew I could just talk to you forever.
I know.
Oh my. Oh, 360 breathing. That makes
yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
It makes so much sense. Because I am a big one on breathing, like breathe. And there's a person who actually comes to my morning lives every day.
Mm-hmm.
And she was in one of my workshops, and she was like 2 or 3 people away from me. She was about 10 feet. And I'm talking about whatever I'm talking about. And all of a sudden, because I'm so intuitive and it just comes through, I looked over, I said, would you just take a breath? Her energy was so blocked up because she was she's hardly breathing, barely enough to sustain life. And I'm like, it was affecting my energy, the holding of the breath. Right. And so just like, like when you're in yoga or something, everybody in the room takes a deep breath. I go, air is your friend. Everybody can take a deep breath all at the same time, and there's still plenty of air. We're not going to run out. Like, we don't have to do that. And so I love how you describe that. And I'm glad you brought up the breathing part, because it is so vital. And I've learned that when I've been practicing the Qigong with you, like when you say in and out, and because I have a gifted brain, sometimes it's a form of dyslexia where I do things backwards unless I'm really watching them. And it's really interesting when I'm doing quilting and learning things that I know, like I can think this is perfectly straight and then it will be backwards. And a lot of the time the people teaching me are like, I'm like, I told you, I warned you. I've never seen anybody do it like that. I go, well, now you have.
Now you have. Now you met me.
Right. And so now you can't say that. And so it's really fun. But the breathing is so important because, air is meant, but I didn't know that the diaphragm was connected to the lower back or the whole esophagus thing. And I can remember years ago, gosh, I don't know, this is probably 20 years ago now. I had a center I was running that was very, very, very busy. It was very crazy. My stress level was through the roof. And as soon as I would lay down in bed at night, my back would start tightening up and I started getting acid reflux, even though I didn't eat anything for at least 5 hours before I went to bed. And I'm like, why am I so tight there? And then when I would meditate and breathe, because I was a real big meditator, and would just start meditating to put myself to sleep and kind of relaxing and letting go of the tension of the day, all those symptoms went away. But I never knew. I just never studied my anatomy deep enough, even though I loved it, to have that awareness. So thank you for sharing that with me. Now I have more,
Yes.
and all of you guys have more awareness too. Isn't Dr. Khanita cool? I just think it's really a riot. And she looks like she's 12 or 13. She's so young and she's so educated and so gifted. And how cool is that you're on the show with us?
I love it. It's just we can talk forever. I know. Like,
I know.
Anatomy is so interesting, but
it
could be a whole different show.
Right. We'll have to do round 2 for the anatomy talk. But I'm curious about, what is the most memorable food you've ever eaten?
Oh, memorable food. Memorable food. I just I'm kind of going back into China a bit, because I love, obviously, Asian food, so I'm very partial to that. And man, I don't know what it is about China's tofu, but it's so good. It's like the silkiness, and that like what came to my mind, because I'd be vegetarian there. It's so good. Vegetables, how they cook it, eggplant, and tofu. I love Thai food too, but that's what came to my mind.
Yeah.
The China, it's in China. I don't know why tofu here doesn't taste as good, but the tofu in China was amazing.
There you go. The tofu in China. There you go. I love Asian food too. Like, if you could leave me alone and just let me eat like Filipino, Thai, Chinese, all of them. Let me just hang out in that food group, that food way. And I would be totally cool. Like, totally fine. Like, there's no part of me that I miss my Thai food when, there's no more restaurants. In fact, we're going to go out and have some Thai food here later this week.
Very good.
The first thing I think of is, I want those vegetables. I love the vegetables. Green vegetables. I know, right? Now we're making ourselves hungry.
Yeah.
Right. So Dr. Khanita is on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. She has a website, and she's on LinkedIn. And so all you have to do is check the show notes of the show and click on there and send her a message, or follow her, watch her videos, because we have in our midst a woman who really cares about healing of people, is connected, but more than that, she's a visionary, and she's educated, and she's competent, and her motive is altruistic, which is a really fine and upstanding motive and way of being, if you ask me, which is why I asked you on the show, by the way.
Appreciate it.
So if you're really liking what she's saying and you want to learn more, go seek her out. It's very easy. I have become a fan. And so if you follow me on those things, you will see her, because I follow her now. Now, I have another quick question for you that I ask just about everybody, and I definitely have to ask you this question. If you were going to have a billboard the whole world could see, what would be Dr. Khanita's message?
Ooh, you put me on the spot. This is hard. Think about this one. My billboard message. Oh, the one that comes to mind that I guess I kind of emanate now is movement is life.
Oh, that's beautiful. Movement is life. That's where our vitality is. Oh, I love it.
Yes.
I love it. So I know we've covered a lot today, and I could keep on going. So there'll be an interview number 2. You only a few people end up with me saying, please come back on the show. So now that you've said yes, I have it recorded. Good. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about today, or something that you were hoping you were going to be able to share with people that I didn't think about or didn't ask you? Is there something left on your heart that you would like to share?
The only thing is, for anyone listening, if you're interested in any of like the movement therapies or any other topics you would like, I would love to hear from you. I like to think about certain things, or to help people as much as I can with movement, with Chinese medicine, but specifically the movement therapy. So I would love to get your input on that, if you would like.
There is the invitation. So if there's something you want to learn about or something you want to know about or something you would like to see helped or healed or whatever, contact Dr. Khanita and let her know. I know when I said I wanted to look at this and that and the other thing, and within, I don't know, minutes, I had some places to start.
Yes.
And so she's really helpful that way. So contact her and let her know you heard her on the show, and allow her to share her gift with you and you share your gift with her. And then that's how we all realize that someone gets me, right?
Yes, love it.
So talking about sleeping better and getting rid of distress and all kinds of things could go on forever. But thank you so much for being on the show with us and sharing so much knowledge and wisdom so freely. I greatly appreciate it.
I was happy to. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And I guess I'll come back another time.
Yes, we will do interview number 2. And remember, everybody, to put your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you. You're a rock star and you're here on purpose with a purpose. So let's all go out there and move and create the beautiful life you were here to create. And until the next episode, be well.